What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show. Me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And I am back with my top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. You might say, Shawnee, what are you talking about? There's no mixed martial arts this weekend, but you, sir, are incorrect. There is plenty of mixed martial arts this weekend. There's a really fantastic Oktagon card coming down. I have a preview for that as well. By this stage, it'll probably already be out. And there's also a Rizin card with some really top fighters on that. There's odds for both of those cards. I'm bringing you my top 5 bets. I've actually 4 bets from Oktagon and 1 bet from Rizin, but I'm going to talk through some of the other Rizin bets as well. And we'll make some money here. You know, the betting world doesn't stop for anyone. It's certainly not stopping for the Christmas period. So let's get right into it. Also, if you've seen my KSW betting show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of amalgamate both of the results. So I'm not going to talk about the results. We're doing this a little bit earlier. We'll talk about the results for KSW, Rizin, Oktagon all together in the will it be the first show next year? It might be the first show next year. But anyway, one of the next shows, because we have a lot to talk about in the betting world, especially with the year in general, and plus when this is all over, we'll be racking up all the bets from the year, talking about all the bets from the year, and getting our numbers. So we hit over 100 bets this year. Very happy with that. But next week we will see, or in the coming weeks, anyway, next couple of weeks, we will see the final numbers for the year. The Flyers absolutely terrible as always, but the top 4 bets, let's say, have been, I would say, pretty much a success. Like, if you hit over 100 bets in just less than 52 weeks, I believe there was maybe 50 shows this year, so that's 2 bets a week. You know, that's pretty good. So we can't be sniffing at that. We can't be sniffing at that. So let's get into these bets, and it's very interesting. Just first of all, if you haven't seen that Oktagon preview show I did, this card it's just really good. Like, there's 3 title fights on the line. You know, probably the best fight outside of, if we're talking about maybe PFL and the UFC, I think this is probably the best fight of 2024 in terms of quality. And I would put this up there as some, I think both of these lads, if they were to get into let's say the UFC, let's put it that way, I think both of these lads would be getting ranked relatively quickly, and that's at lightweight. That's how good I think both of these lads are. The Vamola Fleury fight, I think there's enough said on that and the Pudilova Sabova fight, very interesting as well. So lots to talk about in those fights, in the betting side of it as well. But a couple of fights under it as well. And I'm going to start with one of the fights under it before we get to those 3, because I have bets for all of those 3 title fights. But the first fight I want to touch on, and the first bet I want to give, I'll be honest, I was a tad little bit torn on this one, but I'm going to give it, and I'm going to give Mateusz Legierski a -138 to win his fight against Agi Sardari. The reason I'm a little bit torn is I have an awful soft spot for Agi Sardari. He's one of those fighters. I know if it's just me or if other people do this as well, you see him. And for me, so Agi Sardari was the Cage Warriors champion. He kind of came into Cage Warriors as not an unknown, but maybe an unknown to Cage Warriors watchers. And he got right in there. He fought, Jack Grant fought Donovan Desmond, won the championship. And I remember watching him before the Grant fight, before the Desmond fight, and thinking, this is do you know what this is? This is the type of fighter that's going to win this belt. He's going to go to the UFC, and he's going to have 15 or 20 fights in the UFC. And he's going to be your next kind of Jack Hermanson, or, maybe Jim Miller's on, but like Joe Lozon or something like that. A good, honest fighter who's going to just win and win and win and win. And he'll lose the odd one, but he will continue doing it. Now, Ireland's own Joe McColgan kind of stopped that in his tracks with just a brilliant win. And it's Billy Joe has basically retired, I think, since then. But, Sardari has bounced back, and he's lost a couple of fights since then, but who's he lost? The Figlak and Keita. And he's won I think, 4 fights since then as well. So he's kind of doing, I suppose, what I said he would do, but in Oktagon instead and in Aries and other places. And I'm sure he's earning good money in doing it as well. But he did, Oktagon signed him and thrown him in against Los Incada, one of their top guys, went to decision. That was a relatively close fight. I was only talking to Brian about it on the preview. This is a guy who you put in there against your best guys and he gives them trouble. And I think that's what we're going to see here again. He's fighting Mateusz Legierski. Again, his only loss in Oktagon has been to Los Incada. He's won his last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, beating some of their best guys, beating Akon Wanless, who anyone you talk to from the UK knows is a top fighter. Before that it was only Roman Skiminski in KSW he's actually win over Ronald Paradeiser, who's in the main event, who's the champion in Oktagon. So you win here, especially if Paradeiser was to beat Keita, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You're really in with a title shot here, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm picking him to win this. Now, to just tell you a little bit maybe about Legierski, he's the type of fighter that you look at early in his career. I think he went 8-0, and you're like, can this guy be taken down, right? And he's been taken down a couple of times, but it's been pretty much like improvement. Fantastic grappler, which has gotten better. Great finishes there as well. Plenty of arm bars, chokes. A lot of amateur experience as well. Big power, big knockouts. And some of the names on the record as well. Are which I mentioned are absolutely standouts. I think what the difference here will be between Sardari and Legierski is, and Sardari's plenty of finishes as well, but I think the finishing ability of Legierski is the reason I might be picking him here. Now, having said that, Sardari's only been finished once in his career, but he's fighting, a lot of very, very, very good guys, and it was that Joe McColgan fight. But I feel like Legierski is the type of guy who will fight with him on the feet like he did against Akon Wanless, by being the guy who maybe isn't as technically proficient, but will maybe land the harder shots. And now, that wasn't necessarily the case against Akon Wanless, but I think it might be in this. And then the guy who can drag you to the ground. Now, Sardari, again, I remember famously when I was doing the research on Sardari, I was like, this guy looks like a kickboxer, and he's, it's watching MMA footage of him. And then you go, and I remember putting his name into YouTube, and I saw him in the first thing that comes up is him in a gi, and he's doing some jiu-jitsu tournament. Okay, maybe he's not just a Muay Thai guy or whatever it might be. So it's not going to be easy by any means for Legierski. I think the big advantage of coming through what Legierski has come through in terms of KSW Oktagon is you're going to meet guys there who are beasts on the ground. And everyone that comes through, you look at Gamrot or whoever it might be, that have come through that, they are beasts on the ground as well. You cannot but be a beast on the ground. And picking this, I'm very tempted always to pick the more technical fighter on the feet to win. Always. If you track my bets, there's a good chance that is a high percentage of picks. But I'm not going to do it in this one. Watching Legierski, he just seems so strong. His willingness and his ability to win against guys like Sardari is very, very, very good. Very good. And again, he's a finisher. He finished Paradeiser. Now, his last 2 fights in a row have been to decision. He's gone to more decisions recently, but I think when you lose a decision like he did against Keita, I think that changes something in you as well. And and the fight against Wanless, I think as well, it's harder to do that against Keita, but I think he'll be trying to get back to winning ways and trying to get back to finishing ways. And Sardari won't be an easy out, but I think Wanless is going to do it, and I think he is going to get the finish here and choke out Agi Sardari in the opening couple of rounds here. So that is bet number 1 of the week. Bet number 2 of the week, and this is probably a big pick, I think, for a lot of people. It's plus 110. I'm going to go for Ronald Paradeiser. And the reason I'm going to go for it is I've spoken about their first fight now so many times, and I remember saying once, I'm kind of writing off this fight. It was a long time ago, and both have changed an awful lot since it. And when I say a long time ago, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2022 or something like that. But when I say a long time ago, both of them have had like a wallet of fights since then. There's been an awful lot of fights for both of them since then. Obviously, being in the tournament as well, that's gonna help. But I went back and I watched it before I recorded the preview show in the last couple of days, and my opinion on it then changed from before, because I don't think it was them. Maybe it was a few years ago. They made a lot of improvements. They have, but it wasn't that. I think what it was they both just pushed each other in so many different ways that neither of them looked their amazing best. Right? I think if that night they fought someone else, I think both of them probably would have looked as good in 2022 as they did in 2024, if you get me. So if you're thinking, Sean, here, you said one thing one time, you're saying another thing now. I'm backtracking on what I said before. Paradeiser lost that fight, right? And he's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 since. When I was saying 8 earlier on, I wasn't overplaying it. For Keita, he's fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times since. He lost once, but as Brian reminded me, it was a broken leg in the fight he lost. He was winning. He was winning. Well, it was only very early in the fight, but he bounced back from that and has looked very, very good since, obviously. So why am I picking Paradeiser when everyone talks about Keita? Keita's basically undefeated. He's what is he? 15-1. But as I said, the one was a broken leg and more unfortunate. And I credit his opponent for checking the leg kick or whatever. But come on, we all know. The reason I'm picking Paradeiser is based on if I'm looking back at that first fight, what changes can be made by both of them to win the second fight more easily. And I think if you look at the first round of that fight, you can see quite clearly what Paradeiser needs to do to win this fight. And that is take him down, and hold him down. He took him down at the very start of that fight. He got back up. He took him down again. He had the back for most of the round. He ended up getting back up again. But at the first round, Paradeiser really dominated large periods of that round. He didn't dominate the whole round, as I said, But I think coming into this fight, that should be plan A number 1. Go, 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 go. Because what happened later on in the fight, he got very tired. And he got very tired because there was a lot of stand-up, and Keita's pressure game and his power game is very hard for people to deal with. Like, Keita fights in such a way where he should be more tired than you are by the way he fights, but he makes his opponent tired. Keita has unbelievable cardio, like top level cardio. And Paradeiser, does he? I'd say maybe not, but Keita does this to everyone, so I don't think that's fair. Also, I think that's improved an awful lot since. Like, if you look at his record, since he has gone to a decision multiple times, but with Torres, Korsma, and Bushinger as well. He's used to longer fights now, and he's winning those fights, and he's getting better. Sorry, the Bushinger one actually was a doctor stoppage after the third round. And then he's winning the tournament. Obviously, that was a 5-round fight. So he's also been preparing for 5-round fights as a champion. The belt wasn't on the line as a championship fight. The belt's on the line here, I believe. And I believe this is 5 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, we will check that. It is 5 rounds. I think Paradeiser can adjust. And the other part, like when you're watching back that fight, and if you're a guy and you fought Keita before, I think it might be easier to fight him the second time, because those big winging punches and the pressure is very hard to deal with, I'm sure, for the first time. When you're already in there, you win the 5 rounds, you realize, okay, this guy didn't finish me. What I need to do is actually use that against him. Like, Paradeiser is a way better technical striker, but he doesn't, and he's a southpaw as well, which makes it awkward. It kind of looks awkward both ways, because Keita is an awkward type of fighter, but he hits with such aplomb and such power as well, and it works for him, his style, but he's there to be hit as well. And I think if you use that, like, Paradeiser got a real sneaky left hook in a good few times during that fight. He got a nice sneaky takedown in relatively late in the fight as well. But he was just too tired, spitting out his gum shield by the 4th round. If he reaches that point this time, he's screwed. And the reason I'm picking him is because the game plan has to be to avoid that. It just has to be. And that's why I think takedowns are going to be the name of the game from Paradeiser. And because of the way Kate has kind of open, I think that is possible for a guy as good as Paradeiser. Because he can not only live with Kate on the feet, he can set up takedowns, and he can take him down, and he can better him on the ground. Will he do all of that? Who knows? That's why we watch the fights. But that is bet number 2 of the week. Ronald Paradeiser. Right, bet number 3 of the week is another one I kind of went a touch back and forth with, but I'm going to go with Lucie Pudilova to beat Lucie Sabova in the bantamweight female fight. There's 2 reasons for that, 2 very simple reasons. One is experience. She's 30 years of age. She's 25 fights. Her opponent 26 and 6 fights. Now she's looked good in them. She's beaten Cornelia Holm, who had experience in PFL Europe and other places. She fought Dejeva, if I'm not mistaken. She's a couple of good wins in her last few fights, and she's earned this spot. Fought all of her fights in Oktagon. Has been fighting now for 4 years. Had a few years off there after the Cornelia Holm fight. And obviously Pudilova, we remember her from the UFC. She had a tough time there. She lost 3 decisions in a row. One of them split, a couple of them close. I remember distinctly one of those, was it the Edwards one? Like that, I think that was up for robbery of the year last year, if I'm not mistaken. I might have actually won it, I think. Did it? Maybe, anyway. But she's real experience. In there, Liz Carmouche, Antonina Shevchenko, Irina Aldana, Lena Landsberg a couple of times and all of that. What I watch back in the tape, especially for her most recent fight, I think what she brings is a speed and an athleticism on the feet, which I think will be a struggle for an early pro like Lucia. Now it's Lucie and Lucia here, so I think Pudilova is the faster fighter. What I really like Sabova as a prospect, right? Because she is, I believe she's like a background in Muay Thai, but she looks so comfortable on the ground, and I think Pudilova might have big trouble if this fight goes to the ground, to be honest, because she looks an athlete on the ground, does Sabova. So I think what Pudilova needs to do to win this fight, in my opinion, now maybe they disagree with me here, but I think she needs to use that speed. She needs to stay on the outside, use the cardio, and I think someone like Sabova, it's almost the opposite of the last fight. I think she might panic a tad, and she will get tired, and it just doesn't look as natural to her as an MMA fighter yet as it should, maybe in this position in a title fight. And I think if Pudilova can make the fight, a bit unnatural, if you want to put it that way, where she's kind of running around making her chaser pop, 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 out, pop, 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 in, pop, 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 out type of thing. I think it's going to be tough for Lucie Sabova to deal with that. And that's the reason I've gone with it. I like the price as well. I'll be honest, I thought at 163 that Pudilova would be the favourite coming in here. There's obviously, the hometown factor as well for Sabova, although, the hometown factor, they're both from Cheshire, I suppose, so maybe that isn't the case, but I'm just watching one of her recent fights, and that was definitely the case, that she was getting a lot of adulation. But, Pudilova, as Brian was kind of saying to me in the preview as well, like, she has been a big star in Cheshire and the Czech Republic for a long, long time. So, this might be a crowning moment for her as well, and it's a very interesting fight. I like this fight an awful lot, and we'll see how it goes, but she is the pick for today. Right, bet number 4. I'm gonna be a bit of home cooking here for the last bet of the year, in terms of the top bets outside of the Flyers. But I'm going for a Munster man, a tip man. I'm going for Will Fleury to win his fight over Carlos Famola at -150. And I'll be honest here, I'm I was stunned when I saw this was only minus 150. I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Will Fleury would be a big favourite here. I thought he might be upwards of minus 300, to be honest. I really did, because, and I'll tell you why. I think Vermola is a very good fighter, and obviously at this stage he's done an awful lot more than Will Fleury in his career. You know, winning 37 fights, 29 finishes in there, you know, beating some very good lads down through the years, Mikel Pasternak and, you know, obviously Attila Vey and Patrick Kinsell, and, you know, been in there with Jack Hermanson and fought in the UFC back in the day as well, and wins over Sek Petrozelli and people like that. You know, he has done it all and seen it all, but it feels to me like he's a little bit kind of like he's had one fight in the last year. He lost his fight before that, knocked out. The fella he fought was Attila Vey, coming off of about 15 years out of the game. And he got, you know, he obviously said he got knocked out heavily in 2023. And that fight against Patrick Kinsell was a weird fight as well in 2023, where it was just held against the cage for long periods, and it was like he was winning, but then he lost type of thing. And if he goes in there against Will Fleury and does that, I think he has big issues. And, you know, in between that, though, he beat Pavel Langer, who is a very good fighter. Now, Will Fleury beat him as well, and he's another couple of wins, but I don't know. So those signs, but also like I might fight Attila Vey again. You know, you just beat him and he's coming off of fucking 24 years out of the cage, and you want the trilogy matchup, or, you know, you want to fight Krzysztof again, who knocked him out. Like, yeah, it's, you know, you're supposed to be the champion here. You're supposed to be defending against kind of the next guy, or you know, he's also talking about retirement, and we know. And now I don't necessarily always agree with this, but a lot of people say it. We know what happens once you start talking about retirement in mixed martial arts. So there's all of that, and plus, I don't think he is as quick and, well, he was never Usain Bolt. No, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he has that part of his game anymore where he can land those big shots as well as he used to. Now, he's still going to be a terror against the cage and try to pull you down, and if he does land a big shot, it's going to be very, very tough. And talking to Brian as well, like, he was kind of saying to me, no one has ever bullied him and taken him down and pushed him against the cage. And maybe Will Fleury will try to do that. But with all that said, I think Will's career has gone kind of the opposite way to that. He's 13-3 now, and I think anyone would be hard-pressed not to say his last two fights have been the most impressive. Like, you could say, obviously, you know, the Tarek Sulaiman fight, the stiff fought twice, didn't they? Or am I going mad? Yeah, they did. The second one was a beautiful 5-round technical win, really good, and, you know, he beat some other good guys as well, don't make no mistake about it. But the way he opened up in those fights, as you know, before he's kind of known, he's a bit of a decision fighter or whatever people used to throw it at him. The way he opened up in those two fights, I would say, especially the Daniel Skivor fight, because there was a bit of back and forth in that, and next thing he just kind of like, you know, in hockey when they throw down the gloves and like, let's go. That's what he did there, and he knocked him out. And what did he do against Pavel Langer? He did that, but he did it in a very technical way. I think Luke Thomas broke it down at the time as well. Threw a lovely straight shot, and the left hand came behind it. Will Fleury has never looked as good as he has in the last two fights. Never looked as good. So if you're to look at that upward, downward trajectory, to me, and maybe you could say I'm biased, but I think I broke it down fairly straightforwardly there. I don't think I'm showing any bias in what I said there. You would have to say that Will's definitely on the upward curve. Is Vermola? I would say probably not. So with that said, how do they match up, and why am I picking Will to win the fight? I'm picking Will to win the fight because I have a feeling that this might be the time where Will shows how big and strong and bullish he can be against another guy who's very similar to that. And he has been wanting a matchup like this for a very, very long time, right? And I think if he wins that part of the game, I think the other part of the game will take care of itself. Will is an underrated technical fighter, and the knockout, the big shots he's been landing recently, the second last fight was a submission, but there was big hands landed before that, let's put it that way. I think both of those things added together, the raw bastardness and in the technical part, I think he makes it a real tough night on the Terminator. And I think this one is Will Fleury's. I think it's there for him to take, and I think he will take it. So I'm feeling that minus 150 will not last. I said it when recording this a little bit earlier. I have a feeling it will not last. So if you see minus 150 right now, I would suggest taking it right now. Right. The flyer of the week. And it's not the biggest flyer because there aren't that many props and stuff out. I'm going over to Rizin. And I'm going for Nkazimulo Zulu at plus 300 to beat your guy Kyoji Horiguchi in the flyweight title fight. And the reason I'm going for this is it's not based on the fight too much or anything like that. And I'll be honest, like, it was tough to get a bit of a flyer here. Maybe this is another ignore flyer here. But the reason I'm going for it is, Horiguchi has fought 39 times and he's lost 5 times, right? Which is not an awful lot. But a large percentage of those losses, the Kaya Sakura, the Sergio Pettis losses, even I would garner the early loss in his career as well to you. I'd have to go back and watch it, but maybe even the Patchy Mix fight, although that might be unfair. Not the Dimitri Johnson fight. 3 or 4 of his 5 losses have been, oh geez, I wasn't expecting him to lose that, right? And for a guy that's good, he shouldn't be losing that many fights that way. And that might be the best analysis or anything ever. But again, this is a flyer. And I would say about Zulu, he is the type of guy that you would design for a guy who might give it away a few times. Right? Because what is Zulu? He's a guy who can submit you. He's a guy who can knock you out. I'm just looking here. Yeah, 7 submissions, 7 knockouts in his 16 wins. Right? That's the type of fighter he is. His last fight, he won by spinning wheel kick and punches. The fight before that, he won by guillotine. He has triangle choke wins. He beat that guy, Lutano Biko, who was due to, and he actually lost him as well, but he beat him once, who was due to fight last week against Muhammad Makayev. He's been in there with Jake Hadley and others as well. Some of the best guys at that weight class down through the years. Been fighting since 2013. This guy is an experienced guy. Now, if you're to give me a free bet and think who will win this fight, look, I'm definitely picking Horiguchi. But again, this is the flyer. This is this is the one that maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, maybe it'll be a New Year miracle or something like that. But another thing I think about Zulu as well, very few people can live with the speed of Horiguchi, and at 35 years of age now, could be questions over whether that's still the case, but I think he can, and I think he's kind of mad enough as well to get in there and mix it with him. He's won his fight over in Rizin as well with a big knockout, as I said, with the spinning wheel kick last time out. I think he has a chance, and I think the plus 300 is probably a good price, to be honest. Again, if I was to pick straight up, I'd pick Horiguchi. But as a flyer, plus 300, I don't think that's too bad. So, those are our 5 bets. Anything else that stands out on those cards? Some of the top couple of fights. Robert D'Souza, who's always on these cards, against Karamov, very close, minus 125. For the D'Souza, Karamov minus 105. Watched a bit of Karamov and he looks a really good fighter. But with D'Souza, I think maybe mixing it with him might be a decision. It might be tough. I think that's pretty. I think they have it just right. I think D'Souza just about the favorite, and I think I'd probably go with him. The other one then, Chichiro Suzuki against Kleber Koik Erbst. Erbst is the favorite, minus 175, plus 130. Again, a pick 'em fight there. I would probably just go with Erbst. I think he is a very, very good fighter. But Suzuki on his day, like, is he still what he was, I suppose, is the question. On his day, he could win this fight, but I'm going to go with Erbst. And the other one I definitely wanted to mention from that is Jose Shorty Torres against Shinru. Shinru's the favorite, minus 130. It's been a tough time over the last few years for Shorty Torres. Do you know what? I'm going to go for him there. I'm going to say he's going to pull that one out as the underdog, plus 110. I'm going to go for him in that one. And just a couple of more from over on Oktagon. The Shamrock fight is actually off. So we're not looking at that bet here. Igor Severino, the guy who bit the guy in the UFC. I'm delighted this guy's getting another chance, because look, he made a very bad mistake, and I think he should have been fined and maybe banned or stuff for a while, but I'm glad his career isn't over. You know, I think he's only like 21, 22 years of age as well. He's getting another chance. He's going in there against Jonas Magard, which is a very tough fight. He's actually the favourite is Severino. I like Magard here at -110. He is a really tough fighter and a tough fight for anyone. So I'm going to go for Magard in that one. The other kind of standout, Jakub Teixeira, doesn't have the best record in the world, but he's -549, so you're not getting too much in terms of money on him. And, you know, those are, I suppose, the kind of the standout bets for me on the two big cards this weekend. So just to recap before we finish, the bets of the week: Legierski -138, Paradeiser +110, Pudilova +162, Fleury -150, and Zulu at +300 over in Rizin. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. Merry Christmas. We'll see you all next time.